Aglan, Yaglidu, Kunalukben. Greetings, I'm Siqaiyuk. Thank you for joining me as I read from the Book of 1001 Nights. I got this shirt. I want to show it off real fast. I got this shirt and these earrings from my kids for a Christmas present, which was really fun. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. I'm going to read the 14th night. When it was the 14th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Kalandar continued his tale thus. O my lady, the king's daughter went in hand a knife whereon were inscribed Hebrew characters, and described a wide circle in the midst of the palace hall. And therein wrote in crucific letters mysterious names and talismans. And she uttered words and muttered charms, and some of which we understood, and others we understood not. Presently the world waxed dark before our sight, till we thought that the sky was falling upon our heads. And lo, the Ifrit presented himself in his own shape and aspect. His hands were like many pronged pitchforks, his legs like the masts of great ships, and his eyes like cressets of gleaming fire. We were in terrible fear of him, but the king's daughter cried at him, "No welcome to thee, and no greeting, O dog!" Whereupon he changed to the form of a lion, and said, "O traitress, how is it thou hast broken the oath we swear that neither should contraire other?" "O accursed one," answered she, "how could there be a compact between me and the like of thee?" Then he said, "Take what thou hast brought on thyself." And the lion opened his jaws and rushed upon her, but she was too quick for him, and plucking a hair from her head, waved it in the air, muttering over it the while. And the hair straightway became a trenchant sword blade, and therewith she smote the lion, and cut him in twain. Then the two halves flew away in the air, and the head changed to a scorpion, and the princess became a huge serpent, and set upon the accursed scorpion, and the two fought, coiling and uncoiling, a stiff fight for an hour at least. Then the scorpion changed to a vulture, and the serpent became an eagle, which set upon the vulture, and hunted him for an hour's time, till he became a black tomcat, which mauled and grinned and spat. Thereupon the eagle changed into a piebald wolf, and the two battled in the palace for a long time, when the cat, seeing himself overcome, changed into a worm, and crept into a huge red pomegranate, which lay beside the jetting fountain in the midst of the palace hall. Whereupon the pomegranate swelled to the size of a watermelon in air, and falling upon the marble pavement of the palace, broke to pieces, and all the grains fell out and were scattered about till they covered the whole floor. Then the wolf shook himself and became a snow-white cock, which fell to picking up the grains, purposing not to leave one. But by doom of destiny, one seed rolled to the fountain edge, and there lay hid. The cock fell to crowing and clapping his wings and singing to us with his beak, as if to ask, "Are any grains left?" But we understood not what he meant, and he cried to us with so loud a cry that we thought the palace would fall upon us. Then he ran over all the floor till he saw the grain which had rolled to the fountain edge, and rushed eagerly to pick it up, when behold, it sprang into the midst of the water, and became a fish, and dived to the bottom of the basin. Thereupon the cock changed to a big fish, and plunged in after the other, and the two disappeared for a while, and lo, we heard loud shrieks and cries of pain, which made us tremble. After this the Ifrit rose out of the water, and he was as a burning flame, casting fire and smoke from his mouth and eyes and nostrils. And immediately the princess likewise came forth from the basin, and she was one live coal of flaming love, and these two, and she and he, battled for the space of an hour, until their fires entirely compassed them about, and their thick smoke filled the palace. As for us, we panted for breath, being well nigh suffocated, and we longed to plunge into the water, fearing lest we be burnt up and utterly destroyed. And the king said, "There is no majesty, and there is no might, save in Allah the glorious, the great. Verily, we are Allah's, and unto him are we returning. Would heaven I had not urged my daughter to attempt the disenchantment of this ape fellow, whereby I have imposed upon her the terrible task of fighting yon accursed Ifrit, against whom all the Ifrits in the world could not prevail. And would heaven we had never seen this ape, Allah never assassin, nor blessed the day of his coming. We thought to do a good deed by him before the face of Allah, and to release him from enchantment. And now we have brought this trouble and travail upon our hearts." But I, O my lady, was tongue-tied and powerless to say a word to him. Suddenly, ere we were ware of aught, the Ifrit yelled out from under the flames, and coming up to us as we stood on the estrade, blew fire in our faces. The damsel overtook him, and breathed blast of fire at his face, and sparks from her and from him rained down upon us, and her sparks did us no harm, but one of his sparks alighted upon my eye, and destroyed it, making me a monocular ape. And another fell on the king's face, scorching the lower half, burning off his beard and mustachios, and causing him under teeth to fall out, while a third alighted on the castrato's breast, killing him on the spot. So we despaired of life and made sure of death, when lo, a voice repeated the saying, Allah is most highest, Allah is most highest. Aidance and victory to all the truth believe, and disappointment and disgrace to all who the religion Muhammad, the moon of faith, unbelieve. The speaker was the princess who had burnt the Ifrit, and he was become a heap of ashes. Then she came up to us and said, Reach me a cup of water. They brought it to her, and she spoke over it words we understood not, and sprinkling me with it, cried, By virtue of the truth, and by the most great name of Allah, I charge thee return to thy former shape. And behold, I shook, and became a man as before, save that I had utterly lost an eye. Then she cried out, The fire, the fire! O my dear papa, an arrow from the cursed hath wounded me to the death, for I am not used to fight with the Jan. Had he been a man, I had slain him in the beginning. I had no trouble till the time when the pomegranate burst and the grain scattered. But I overlooked the seed wherein was the very life of the genie. Had I picked it up, and he had died on the spot. But as fate and fortune decreed, I saw it not. So he came upon me all unawares, and there befell between him and me a sore struggle, under the earth, and high in the air, and in the water. And as often as I opened on him a gate, he opened on me another gate, and a stronger, till at last he opened me on the gate of fire. And few are saved upon whom the door of fire openeth. But destiny willed that my cunning prevailed over his cunning, and I burned him to death after I vainly exhorted him to embrace the religion of al-Islam. As for me, I am a dead woman. Allah supply my place to you. Then she called upon heaven for help, and ceased not to implore relief from the fire, when lo, a black spark shot up from her robed feet to her thighs. Then it flew to her bosom, thence to her face. When it reached her face, she wept and said, I testify that there is no God but the God, and that Mohammed is the apostle of God. And we looked at her, and saw naught but a heap of ashes by the side of the heap that had been the Ifrit. We mourned for her, and I wish I had been in her place. So had I not seen her lovely face, who had worked me such weal, become ashes. But there is no gainsaying the will of Allah. When the king saw his daughter's terrible death, he plucked out what was left of his beard, and beat his face, and rent his raiment. And I did as he did, and we both wept over her. Then came in the chamberlains and the grandees, and were amazed to find 2 heaps of ashes, and the sultan in a fainting fit. So they stood around him till he revived, and told them what had befallen his daughter from the Ifrit. Whereat their grief was right grievous, and the women and the slave girls shrieked and keened, and they continued their lamentations for the space of 7 days. Moreover, the king bade build over his daughter's ashes a vast vaulted tomb, and burn therein wax tapers and sepulchre lamps. But as for the Ifrit's ashes, they scattered them on the winds, speeding them to the curse of Allah. Then the sultan fell sick of a sickness that well nigh brought him to his death for a month's space. And when health returned to him, and his beard grew again, he had been converted by the mercy of Allah to al-Islam. He sent for me and said, O youth, fate hath decreed for us the happiest of lives, save from all chances and changes of time, till thou camest to us, when troubles fell upon us. Would to heaven we had never seen thee, and the foul face of thee, for we took pity on thee, and thereby we have lost our all. I have on thy account lost my daughter, who is to me was well worth 100 men. Secondly, I have suffered that which befell me, no reason of fire, and the loss of my teeth, and my eunuch also was slain. I blame thee not, for it was out of thy power to prevent this. The doom of Allah was on thee as well as on us, and thanks be to the Almighty, for that my daughter delivered thee. Albeit, thereby she lost her own life. Go forth now, O my son, from the city, and suffice thee what hath befallen us through thee. Even although it was decreed for us, go in peace, and if I ever see thee again, I will surely slay thee. And he cried out at me. So I went forth from his presence, O my lady, weeping bitterly, and hardly believing in my escape, and knowing not whether I should wend. And I recalled all that had befallen me, my meeting the tailor, my love for the damsel in the palace beneath the earth, and my narrow escape from the Ifrit, even after he had determined to do me die, and how I had entered the city as an ape, and was now leaving it a man once more. Then I gave thanks to Allah, and said, My eye and not my life. And before leaving the place, I entered the bathe, and shaved my poll, and beard, and mustachios, and eyebrows, and cast ashes on my head, and donned the coarse black woolen robe of a Kalandar. Then I fared forth, O my lady, and every day I pondered all the calamities which had betided me, and I wept, and repeated these couplets. I am distraught, yet verily his ruth abides with me, though round me gathered hosts of ills, whence come I cannot see. Patient I'll be till patience self with me impatience wax, patient forever till the Lord fulfill my destiny. Patient I'll bide without complaint, a wronged and vanquished man. Patient as sun-parched white that spans the desert's sandy sea. Patient I'll be till Allah's self unwittingly allow I'm patient under bitterer things than bitterest aloe. No bitterer things than aloes or than patience for mankind, yet bitterer than the twain to me were patience treachery. My sear and seamed and seared brow would dragomen my sore, if souls could search my sprite and thus unsecret secrecy. Were hills to bear the load I bear, they'd crumble neath the weight. 'Twould still this roaring wind, 'twould quench the flame tongue's flagrancy. And whoso saith the world is sweet, certes a day he'll see, with more than aloe's bitterness and aloe's pungency. Then I journeyed through many regions, and saw many a city, intending for Baghdad, that I might seek audience in the house of peace, with the commander of the faithful, and tell him all that had befallen me. I arrived here this very night, and found my brother in Allah, this first Kalandar, standing about as one perplexed. So I saluted him with peace be upon thee, and entered into discourse with him. Presently up came our brother, this third Kalandar, and said to us, Peace be with you, I am a stranger. Whereto we replied, And we too be strangers, who have come hither to this blessed night. So we all three walked on together, none of us knowing the other's history, till destiny drave us to this door, and we came in to you. Such then is my story, and my reason for shaving my beard and mustachios, and this is what caused the loss of my eye. Said the house mistress, Thy tale is indeed a rare, so rub thy head and wend thy ways. But he replied, I will not budge till I hear my companion's stories. Then he came forward, the third Kalandar, and said, O illustrious lady, my history is not like that of these my comrades, but more wondrous and far more marvelous. In their case, fate and fortune came down on them unawares, but I drew down destiny upon mine own head, and brought sorrow on mine own soul, and shaved my own beard, and lost mine own eye. Hear then the third Kalandar's tale. Know, O my lady, that I also am a king, and the son of a king, and my name is Ajib, son of Kazib. When my father died, I succeeded him, and I ruled and did justice, and dealt fairly by all my lieges. I delighted in sea trips, for my capital stood on the shore, but before which the ocean stretched far and wide, and near hand were many great islands, with sconces and garrisons in the midst of the main. My fleet numbered 50 merchantmen, and as many yachts for pleasance, and 150 sail ready fitted for holy war with the unbelievers. It fortuned that I had a mind to enjoy myself on the islands aforesaid, so I took ship with my people in 10 keel, and carrying with me a month's victuals. I set out on a 20 days' voyage, but one night a headwind struck us, and the sea rose against us with huge waves. The billows sorely buffeted us, a dense darkness settled round us. We gave ourselves up for lost, and I said, Whoso endangers his days, and he escaped, deserveth no praise. Then we prayed to Allah and besought him, but the storm blast ceased not to blow against us, nor the surges to strike us, till morning broke when the gale fell. The seas sank to merry stillness, and the sun shone upon us kindly clear. Presently we made an island where we landed and cooked somewhat of food, and ate heartily, and took our rest for a couple of days. Then we set out again and sailed other 20 days, the seas broadening and the land shrinking. Presently the current ran counter to us, and we found ourselves in strange waters, where the captain had lost his reckoning, and was wholly bewildered in the sea. So said we to Lookout Man, Get thee to the masthead, and keep thine eyes open. He swarmed up the mast, and looked out, and cried aloud, O race, I espy to starboard something dark, very like a fish floating on the surface of the sea, and to larboard there is a loom in the midst of the main, now black, now bright. When the captain heard the lookout's words, he dashed his turban on the deck, and plucked out his beard, and beat his face, saying, Good news indeed, we all be dead men, not one of us can be saved. And he fell to weeping, and all of us wept for his weeping, and also for our lives. And I said, O captain, tell us what is this the lookout saw. O my prince, answered he, know that we lost our course on the night of the storm, which was followed on the morrow by a 2 days' calm, during which we made no way. We have gone astray 11 days reckoning from that night, where ne'er a wind to bring us back to our true course. Tomorrow, by the end of the day, we shall come to a mountain of black stone, height the Magnet Mountain, for thither the currents carry us willy-nilly. As soon as we are under its lee, the ship's sides will open, and every nail and plank will fly out and cleave fast to the mountain. For that Almighty Allah hath gifted the lodestone with a mysterious virtue and a love for iron, by reason whereof all which is iron travelleth towards it, and on this mountain is much iron. How much none knoweth save the Most High, from the many vessels which have been lost there since the days of yore. The bright spot upon its summit is a dome of yellow latten from Andalusia, vaulted upon 10 columns, and on its crown is a horseman who rideth a horse of brass, and holdeth in hand a lance of latten, and there hangeth on his bosom a tablet of lead, graven with names and talismans. And he presently added, And, O king, none destroyeth folk save the rider on that steed, nor will the egromancy he dispelled till he fall from his horse. Then, O my lady, the captain wept with exceeding weeping, and we all made sure of death's doom, and each and every one of us farewelled his friend, and charged him with his last will and testament, in case he might be saved. We slept not that night, and in the morning we found ourselves much nearer the Lodestone Mountain, whither the waters drave us with violent send. When the ship was close under its lee, they opened, and the nails flew out, and all the iron in them sought the Magnet Mountain, and clove to it like a network, so that by the end of the day we were all struggling in the waves round about the mountain. Some of us were saved, but more were drowned, and even those who had escaped knew not one another. So stupefied were they by the beating of the billows and the raving of the winds. As for me, O my lady, Allah, be his name exalted, preserved my life, that I might suffer whatso he willed to me of hardship, misfortune, and calamity. For I scrambled upon a plank from one of the ships, and the wind and waters threw it at the feet of the mountain. There I found a practicable path, leading by steps craven out of the rocks to the summit. And I called on the name of Allah Almighty. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Kriana and Siqaiyuk, thank you for following along as I read the 14th chapter. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Bye.